All right, hello everybody. I hope you guys are all doing okay. Today's lesson is going to be on congruent chords and arcs. So remember that a chord is a line segment that intercepts a circle at 2 points. So like AB is a chord and CD is a chord. And so it says two chords are congruent, which means they're equal, if and only if. So if and only if means that they both are always true together. So they always go together. Kind of like peanut butter and jelly. Okay, so if their corresponding arcs are congruent, which means that if I knew A to B, this arc was congruent to C to D, then the chord AB is congruent to CD. So basically corresponding parts that kind of match up are also going to be congruent. Then there's also this thing that says they are equidistant from the center. So that means they are the same distance from the center. So that means if AB is equal to CD, which we know that, right? AB and CD are congruent. Then EF is equal to EG. So that means this little piece is congruent to this little segment here. Okay. So basically, the corresponding parts are congruent. Just like when we did right triangles and similar triangles. If a diameter or radius is perpendicular to a chord, then it bisects the chord and its arcs. So if we have this perpendicular sign right here, or symbol, then what that means is that CG is congruent to DG, which is also congruent to BF and FA. So all four of these segments that I'm highlighting up are also congruent. And I just had to lay out the definitions. This is what you would read like in a textbook, but I promise it makes a lot more sense when we actually do it in a problem. So let's see some examples. So what's going to happen is you're going to be given a diagram and you have to solve it based on what you see. So it says find X. And I'm looking at this diagram here. I have a tally mark here and a tally mark here, which means that SR is congruent to ST, right? So what that also means is that arc SR is congruent to arc ST, right? Those pieces. So if SR is 115, I know it's going to be equal to 7x plus 24. Or you probably would want to write it the other way. Then you draw your line down, you solve it, you get 91 equals 7x, divide by 7, and you get 13 equals x. Okay, so let's approach another one. Matter of fact, I think 2 you can handle, so I'm going to pause and let you try. Okay, so in that case, same thing. The chords are congruent, or the arcs are congruent, which means the chords are congruent. So now let's try 3. It's a little bit different, but same process. It says find XY. So XY is this chord. Now I'm just assuming it looks pretty much the same as WV, so they most likely are congruent. But the reason I know that is because there's this tick mark that says the chords are, or the arcs are congruent. So I would set up 9x minus 34 equals 4x plus 1. Then I solve it. So I minus 4x. I add 34 on both sides. So I get 5x equals 35. I divide by 5. I get x equals 7. But it said to find xy. So I plug it in right here. 4 times 7 plus 1. 4 times 7 is 28 plus 1 is 29. So that's what you would type in. All right, I'm going to have you guys try number 4. All right, so for number 4, you would set them equal, solve it, plug back in, and you would get that arc RS equals 71 degrees. Okay, so let's look at number 5. It says find X. Okay, cool. So that is related to arc ZY, which is 6x minus 20. I'm like, well, I know that arc is congruent to this arc, but I don't really know what that arc is. So what I could do is write 6x minus 20 here, but you can't really set that up as an equation. And by the way, there are multiple ways to do this. Some people's brains solve this differently. So kind of as long as you get the same answer as me, that's fine. And then I know this arc is 76. So now I have a full circle, and I know full circles equal 360. So 6x minus 20 plus 6x minus 20 equals 360. Okay. So full circle equals 360. I'm going to combine my like terms. So 76 minus 20 is 56, minus 20 is 36. And then 6x and 6x is 12x equals 360 minus 36 on both sides. I get 12x equals, what is that? That's 4, 2, 324. And then I divide by 12 and I get x equals, I don't have a calculator, so that goes in 2 times. That would be 84, and that goes in, what, 6, 7 times. So x equals 27. Okay, cool. So, yeah, let's have you try number 6 on your own. Okay, so it doesn't say it, but MP is congruent to PN, so you set them equal. And that's because the arcs are congruent, which means the chords are congruent, which means they're equidistant from the center. All right, let's see, D, E, and F, G. All right, let's do some of this. I'm gonna have you try 7. All right, so 8 is a little bit different though. Not as difficult, but it wants us to find MP. And all I really know is that this little segment is congruent to this little segment, which tells me that MN is congruent to NP, and that means that arc NP and arc NM are going to be congruent. So I can set up my equation. 9x, yes.
I have a bicycle.
Yes. Can you close the door, baby, please?
Yeah.
So I set them equal to each other, and most of the time, honestly, you can just assume that if you have no idea how to start. So I'm going to add 43 and take away 5x on both sides. So I get 4x equals 76 divided by 4. And I get x equals 19. So, but remember, it's asking me to find MP. So I got to take 19, plug it in here. So I get 5 times 19 plus 33. So that would be 95 plus 33, which is 128 degrees. So that means this arc is about 128 degrees, which means MN is also 128, and a full circle is 360. So I would do 360 and I would take away 128 and then take away 128 again. So I'm just going to add 128 plus 128 to get 256. I'm going to do 256, 360. I get 104 degrees. So MP is 104 degrees. All right. Let's look over these. and see which ones we want to do. Maybe I'll do 9 and you can do 10, and we'll see how that goes. So it says in circle Z if RS equals 18. Okay, so I know RS is 18, and the measure of arc TY is 42. Okay. Find each measure. Okay, so remember these, with these congruent chords and arcs, things all kind of correspond and match up. So I'm going to change my color, but basically I know YU is going to also be 42 degrees. Then I know XR is going to be 42 degrees, and so is XS. So I'm just orienting my mind and saying, all right, if TY is 42, that means YU is 42, and these two over here are each 42. Then the other thing I know is if RS is 18, then that means TU is 18 also, and that means each of these little pieces is 9 because they're split in half. So all of those are split in half. So they're all kind of divided into congruent parts. So now let's answer these questions. TV would be 9. That's right here. TU would be the full thing, which is 18. WS, which is this little part, would be 9. Then it asks us what would arc YU be, which is a little piece, so it's 42. And then RS is this full arc over here, which would be 42 plus 42, so it's 84. All right, you try with number 10. Okay, so number 10 was a little bit harder, mostly because they give you that CHA, this big arc, is 256. So in order to get these little arcs over here, what I did is I subtracted 256 from 360 and I got 104. And then because there's 4 little arcs that are equal pieces, I divided it by 4, but you could have also divided it by 2 and then divided it by 2 again. You still should get these same answers, that each of these arcs is 26, and AB and BC, which are bigger arcs, they would be 52 because 26 plus 26 is 52. Once again, there's lots of ways to think about this, so sometimes you might do it differently but get the same answer. All right, I'll do 11 and then you can do 12. So QM is 6S minus 11. So that's this arc, or this chord, not even a chord. It's just this segment here. And then MR equals 2X plus 9. So these are actually congruent because they're equidistant from the center. So this little tally mark tells me that all these pieces are congruent. So I'm going to set it up as 6x minus 11 equals 2x plus 9. You solve it. I like to do it at the same time. So I get 4x equals 20. So x equals 5. And then it says to find MN. So I am going to take 5, plug it in here. So I get 2 times 5 plus 9, so that's 19. So what that means is MR is 19, which means RN is 19, and 19 plus 19 equals 38. Okay, you guys, and then just to recap number 12 in case you didn't get it right. Basically, they tell you that CI, this little arc, is 7x minus 15, and then EF is the bigger arc. So they are not congruent, but because of this little tally mark here, I know that DI is the same as CI. So I just wrote 7x minus 15. There's different ways that you could figure this out, especially if you're really good with algebra. So as long as you got 62 degrees, you're good. But if not, just come to office hours. Let us know if you have any questions. I love you guys and have a good rest of the day. Don't do drugs.